We're coming up to 3,000 feet, so let's begin our level off. Raise the nose and let the airplane slow down to 120 knots. Then increase your power to 17 inches of manifold pressure. This should allow you to fly level with the gear down at approximately 120 knots. Don't forget to add some trim to keep the airplane in the desired attitude. Now that we're below the top of the airspeed indicator's white arc, let's apply approach flaps by moving the flap switch down to its first position. Keep the power at 17 inches and maintain your altitude. Be prepared to compensate for a slight pitch change when applying flaps. Notice how the airplane is slowed down an additional 10 knots to 110 knots with flaps down. This will be a good speed and gear flap configuration to fly the downwind leg when operating in the pattern. Let's turn to a heading of 170 degrees. Add a little power if necessary to keep the airplane at approximately 110 knots during the turn. Now let's simulate entering a climb from a gear down, partial flap descent. We'll need to add power, then clean up the airplane in a specific order. And I don't mean pick up cups and glasses when I speak of cleaning up the airplane. I'm speaking of retracting flaps and gear to make the airplane climb efficiently, just as we would if we were on final approach to land and had to make a go-around because a tire-popping porcupine strolled out unexpectedly on the runway. We'll do this by increasing the RPM to 2,500 first, increasing the manifold pressure to 25 inches next, then raising the nose to climb attitude, followed by retracting the gear and then the flaps. Ready? Let's do it. First, move the prop control forward and increase the RPM to 2,500. Next, increase the power to 25 inches of manifold pressure. Now, raise the nose to climb attitude for a climb at 136 knots. And raise the gear and check the gear lights for proper retraction. Finally, retract the flaps. And don't forget to open those cowl flaps to prevent engine overheating during the climb. Use whatever trim you need to help you maintain the desired attitude. Excellent. You are now in a climb with the airplane in the clean configuration. Let's level out at 4,000 feet and head back to the airport to put all we've learned into practice. When level, let the airplane accelerate to 170 knots while climb power is still applied. When reaching 170 knots, reduce the power and RPM to our previous cruise settings of 22 inches and 2,300 RPM in that order. When you're level, close those cowl flaps. Good job. Let's head back to the airport. To do this, we need to find the airport, and I can't think of a better way to do so than using your GPS. I'll keep us flying straight and level while you work out the navigation. Push the GPS button on your instrument panel and let's see where Bremerton is. Plot a direct course for Bremerton in the GPS and press the control and left bracket keys when you're ready to move on to the next phase of the lesson. Begin the high-speed descent by lowering the nose to an attitude that will give you a speed of 210 knots. We're going to descend for a straight in to runway 19 at Bremerton. Speed up. There is a way to properly plan for these descents, but we only have so much time, so we'll save those details for a later time. Right now, we'll just use our intuition to see if we can manage to be at or near traffic pattern altitude when we approach Bremerton. Speed up. We're going to level off at 1,400 feet and align ourselves with runway 19. We're now in a position to slow the airplane down some more and lower the gear and flaps for our final descent. Let's reduce the power to 15 inches, slow the airplane down to below its maximum gear extension speed of 152 knots, then lower the gear. Let's continue to slow the airplane down to 120 knots, then we'll apply approach flaps all the while holding our altitude. Now I want you to turn and align yourself with runway 19. At this point, I want you to begin your descent and remain on the poppy. We'll use an approach speed of 105 knots. Reduce your power as necessary to fly at 105 knots and keep the airplane on the glide path. As you recall from our ground school session, now is a good time to use the GUMP verbal checklist. The gas is on both tanks, the undercarriage is down, the mixtures are full rich, and the propellers are okay for now. We'll place the propellers in their full forward position when we're about ready to cross a threshold where we'll do our GUMP checklist one more time.